So, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out 2 weeks ago, and it's still surreal. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 felt like such a mythical beast back when it was announced. Many a directs went by with nothing shown other than Ganon's corpse and Zelda. That was it. To have this mythical creature of a game then be in my hands is really kind of a crazy thought. I'll probably have the same thoughts when Metroid Prime 4 finally comes out. So now that it's here, I feel like the perfect way to conclude this year's Zelda month would be to review the game that inspired this whole month to be a Zelda takeover in the first place. Is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom a worthy successor to the behemoth that was Breath of the Wild, or is it the typical sequel that is not as good as the original? Let's find out. I'm going to be going in depth with the story of Tears of the Kingdom, so if you don't want to be spoiled for any story, skip to the timecode on screen to go to the gameplay section of this video. The game begins with Zelda and Link exploring ruins that were found underneath Hyrule Castle. Going through, Zelda starts finding murals and artifacts from an ancient race called the Zonai. Looking through the murals, they see a telling of a story that Zelda calls the Imprisoning War. Back in the beginnings of Hyrule, there was the race known as the Zonai that gave their wisdom to the early Hylians. During this time, there was a horrible demon king that the first king and queen, along with their trusted sages, had to fight in order to take down the demon king. Exploring deeper into the depths of the caverns, Link and Zelda find a weird energy flowing beneath the castle. All of this energy is flowing into a corpse with an arm on it. This corpse is Ganondorf. When they walk up to the corpse, it awakens and everything goes to shit. Zelda falls, the Master Sword breaks, a black substance called gloom spreads everywhere, Hyrule Castle lifts up off the ground, the Sky Islands appear, and Link loses an arm. This is what the game will refer to as the upheaval. It's fine though, that arm that fell off Ganondorf before decided to become Link's new arm. This arm belonged to Rauru, the first king of Hyrule and a Zonai. After a few trials, Link goes inside the Temple of Time, where he places the Master Sword as it disappears and is revealed to have been sent to Zelda, wherever she is. After heading back to Lookout Landing, a town set up in front of Hyrule Castle, Link meets back up with an aged-up Pura. "Stop looking at her with them big ol' eyes!" She tells Link of some unusual regional phenomena that's been going on around Hyrule. She suggests that Link investigate those areas as they may hold clues as to where Zelda is. You must help the Rito live through a blizzard, help clean up the water of the sludge in Zora's domain, stop a zombie apocalypse in Gerudo Village, and stop Gorons from getting addicted to drugs in Goron City. I wish I was kidding about those last two. When you speak to each of the important people in these places about the weirdness that's been going on since the upheaval, every single one of them mentions that they saw Zelda seemingly causing all of this to happen. The mystery deepens. After beating each of the dungeons, you get a vision from the first sages of each domain to tell their descendants their destiny. So not only are Tulin, Riju, Sidon, and Yunobo descendants of the 4 champions from Breath of the Wild, they are also descendants of the sages that fought alongside Rauru in the Imprisoning War. Along with their vision, they notice one of the sages that fought with Rauru looks a lot like Zelda. This is the perfect segue into the Dragon's Tears quest. Along your adventures, you'll find Impa, who is wondering about these geoglyphs that have popped up all over Hyrule. Examining them shows a little puddle of water that, when interacted with, shows what Zelda has been doing and where she's been. Turns out, Zelda is in the past with Rauru and the first queen of Hyrule, Sonia. Turns out Zelda is the 6th sage that fought alongside Rauru during the Imprisoning War. She was the Sage of Time, and a descendant of Rauru and Sonia. These memories show the rise of power of Ganondorf, the Imprisoning War, and Zelda's fate. I'm not going to spoil these too much since this leads to the single biggest twist that Legend of Zelda has ever had, so I'd say do it for yourselves to experience it. After gathering all of the sages and obtaining your Master Sword, you are well on your way to Hyrule Castle, where you chase down Zelda. Chasing the vision of Zelda that has been seen all over Hyrule, you get to the throne room where Zelda transforms into Phantom Ganon. You then have to fight 5 Phantom Ganons at once Jesus Christ, I spent so much time here. After you fight Phantom Ganon, Ganondorf appears before them to say that Link and the sages cannot stop him from spreading darkness all over the world. After Ganondorf sets his plans into motion, Link and the other sages go back to Lookout Landing and regroup with Pyrrha. This is when Pyrrha reveals something that I cannot believe I didn't catch as I was playing the game. We're missing a sage. In the Imprisoning War, there was Rauru and his 6 sages. The Goron, the Gerudo, the Zora, the Rito, Zelda, and... yeah. The 6th sage is revealed to be Minoru, Rauru's younger sister, in a quest that leads us to a reunion with Paya and also into the depths of Hyrule. We find ourselves at the final temple, the Spirit Temple. After rebuilding Minoru's construct for her spirit to inhabit, they reclaim her sacred stone and she fights alongside Link and the others. Traveling into the castle depths, we go through a huge gauntlet of dungeon, enemy rushes, and last but not least, the fight with Ganondorf. Link makes it to Gloom's origin where he finally faces off head-to-head with a revitalized Ganondorf. After beating him, Ganondorf transforms into his true form, Demon King Ganondorf. The other sages come in to help you fight, but it all culminates in Link's victory. When even his Demon King form doesn't work, Ganondorf gets desperate and swallows his secret stone to become an immortal dragon that does nothing but spread darkness. Link, with the help of the Light Dragon, defeats Ganondorf once and for all. After the battle, Link gets a vision of Rauru and Sonia in order to use their powers on the Light Dragon, reverting her back to Zelda. After the credits, we see Minoru pass on as Zelda vows to protect Hyrule for the rest of their lives. This story is great. I love seeing returning characters like Sidon, Yunobo, and Riju, and how their lives evolved over the 5-year time gap between this game and Breath of the Wild. Ganondorf is a great villain that is just as intimidating as he needs to be. Matt Mercer hit it out of the park with his performance. Dark, composed, imposing. That's Ganondorf. The only weird thing that I kinda wish there was at least a little bit mention of was about the 4 champions. There is almost no mention at all of Mipha, Revali, Daruk, or Urbosa. I kinda miss them and I wish they were more important. With all of that in mind, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom story gets an A+. The gameplay of Tears of the Kingdom is just as solid as Breath of the Wild, but goddamn did they evolve it a lot. When it comes right down to it, a lot of the structure of Tears of the Kingdom is one-to-one with Breath of the Wild, almost to the point that it's kinda weird. Once you finish the opening cinematics that start the story, you awake with no equipment, then you meet a ghost that tells you to go to a temple, then to 4 shrines. Once you do this, that spirit gives you a paraglider. You use that paraglider to traverse around until you go to a town where you get your main quest. Go through 4 dungeons and also collect memories along the way to both get the powers you need to defeat Ganon and also get the full picture of the story. Hell, the types of dungeons are even the same: water, wind, fire, and thunder. Once you finish all of the dungeons, you can choose to go for the Master Sword quest in the Lost Woods, or you could go fight Ganon at Hyrule Castle, or at least you would think. The game structurally is identical to Breath of the Wild, but it's in the gameplay differences where this game's gameplay really shines brighter than its predecessor. For one thing, the abilities you can do with Rauru's armor are much more interesting than the abilities the Sheikah Slate gave you. Instead of just move thing, place bomb, freeze water, stop time, which are very basic powers, you get to mend things, fuse stuff to your weapons, ascend through ceilings, and reverse time on an object. These new powers create some really interesting scenarios for shrines and dungeons to put you through. Speaking of, dungeons in this game are so much better than in Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, the Divine Beasts were dungeons that were able to be rotated, and you had to find the 5 checkpoints in order to activate the Divine Beast. Then you would release a Ganon, fight him, and then the Divine Beast was yours. In this game, they took out the most annoying aspect of the Divine Beasts. You don't rotate the dungeon anymore. I always thought that system was kind of annoying, and I do not miss it. Instead, they base the dungeons around the powers you will receive after the dungeon is over. Because you enter the dungeon with a buddy every time, you have a special ability to use for each dungeon. When you beat the dungeon, you get that ability permanently. I feel like this is a much better way to handle the dungeons in my opinion. It gets you hyped for what the next ability you are going to get will be. They also didn't Skyward Sword it, where using the power is the obvious answer, and all you must do to defeat the boss. Sure, they will help with the boss, but you still gotta show your skill to actually defeat the bosses. Honestly, it's all I wanted out of a Zelda game. Even something as already good as the towers were improved upon. Instead of the towers being climbing challenges that give you a vantage point, now they launch you straight into the air, allowing you not only to explore the sky islands of that region, but also use your time airborne to travel way more quickly to where you need to go, especially when you combine it with the wind ability and the paraglider. You move so quickly in this game, I may as well be playing Sonic Frontiers. The only system in the game that I didn't very much care for or really have the patience to learn was the building mechanic. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's bad, because it's not. You and I both have seen the videos upon videos of people making these crazy contraptions and torture devices with the building, and the fact that you can do all of that is amazing. It's just not my personal cup of tea. All of you who followed me on Twitter saw my disdain for the light dragon in real time, but I learned after that I wasn't doing the quest proper. Once I learned how to do it properly, it became a fun chase to get what I wanted. I do have to say though, this game went on way longer than I anticipated it was going to. I did all 4 dungeons in the game and thought, alright, Hyrule Castle, that's it, just like last game. But no, there's so much more game after Hyrule Castle, and it is brutal. One of the more annoying aspects was the final dungeon of the game. You are expected to get through the castle depths, fight Phantom Ganon again, get through the rest of the dungeon, defeat a giant enemy wave, and defeat 3 phases of Ganondorf, all with the same health bar. You cannot leave, you cannot go back and get more healing items. Once you're here, there's no going back. When I got to Ganondorf, I had to defeat him with only 3 hearts. To say it was a bit frustrating was an understatement, considering I was stuck there for literally hours wondering what I got all of these hearts for. This final part of the game is cruel, way harder than Breath of the Wild. Regardless of that though, this game is just all around fun and it's super hard to put down. I can easily kill 3 or 4 hours with this game by complete accident. With all of that in mind, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's gameplay gets my rating of an A++. Holy crap, I can't get enough of this game. If you love the aesthetic and music of Breath of the Wild, you will once again love the aesthetic and music of Tears of the Kingdom. The visuals of this game look one-to-one with Breath of the Wild. Where it gets better in this department, however, is the variety in the environments. We got the whites and grays of the snowstorm in Rito, the orange rockiness with red and purple tumor rocks in Goron City, the dark gross sludge covering the clean and pristine waters of Zora's Domain, and the odd browns and greens of the sand-shrouded, zombie-infested Gerudo village. The weather phenomenon angle of the story made it so each familiar place you visit feels fresh and new from when we visited it in Breath of the Wild. As for the music, it's just as subtle and whimsical as in Breath of the Wild. It sure do be a guy sitting at his keyboard hitting a few notes at a time every couple of minutes. I don't know why, but this minimal style just works for me in this game. It sacrifices having any memorable music, but replaces it with a feeling of whimsy and discovery. With all of that in mind, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's presentation gets my rating of an A+. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is exactly what was shown off during pre-release. It is Breath of the Wild, but again. Ultimately, Tears of the Kingdom is more than just an overpriced DLC for Breath of the Wild. In fact, as controversial as it is to say, I'd say it's well worth the $70 price tag. With a story that twists and turns in ways that I haven't felt in a Zelda game in a long time, gameplay that somehow is better than Breath of the Wild, which I didn't even think was possible, and pulling it off with such a beautiful style in visuals and music, is it any wonder that with all of that in mind, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gets my overall rating of an A+. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video and hanging out with me while I talk about Zelda all month. The reception from you guys was incredible, whether it was gushing about Majora's Mask with me, getting mad at my positive take on Ocarina of Time even though we agree, or even talking about a Zelda game that could have been. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe to see what we've got going on next. Also consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member to get videos early and a nice little shout out at the end of every video like you're seeing right here. Also, at the end of next month from June 23rd to whenever we finish, Pete and I will be going live for a big Sonic Generations Marathon Race charity event. We will be playing Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Sonic 06, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, and Sonic Generations all in one sitting while we raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So make sure to spread the word and join us for that. And with that, I'm Bottles and I bid you, my well-esteemed guests, adieu.